Hi, my name is Jenn Yacapucci, and I'm a member of the Circuit Breaker team. I am going to walk you through basic navigation of the claim system in this training module. We have other training modules that will go over claiming and how to claim in each placement category and different other different scenarios. This is just going to show you basic navigation, where to find reports, and other information that you may need to pull from the claim system while making your claims. The first thing I want to show you is when you get your login and you log into Champ, this is the screen you'll see. You'll notice further on the page, it says the login provides access to the following DESI applications, and there's several businesses here. Business units listed here. One of those is Circuit Breaker and School Choice. If you do not see this when you go to log in, you're logging in to the wrong side of Champ, and you should reach out to us so that we can square away your login. Once you log, I don't see the screen when I log in, but once you log in, this is the screen you'll see. And again, based on the access that you have for your login, you may see other options across this top area, but as long as you see Circuit Breaker, you're in the right place. You're going to click on this Circuit Breaker, and you'll see there's two options here, Claims or District Dashboard. We want to click Claims. District Dashboard will be available, and we'll have other trainings related to that, but right now we're focusing just on claiming. So once we click on Claims, that brings us to open claims that are available to you based on your login. You may have access to other claims depending on what your login, how your login was set up. When you first open, it opens to open claims that are available. Right now we're in FY26, so that's showing us FY26 claims. I want to just point out if you clicked all your claims would be here going back to FY21. All those claims are locked and cannot be updated or edited, but district and claim information can be viewed down to the student level on any of those claims. In our test district Pawnee, it only goes back to FY25, but your district should be in here going back to FY21 if you had claims going back that far. I'm going to just click on open again. And now we see FY26 for Pawnee. This is our test district, which hopefully you've seen a bit of when you looked at our other training modules. When you open up, it brings you to the home screen for the claim. And I'm going to walk you through how to get through all of these screens and what's here and what's important. So first, like I mentioned, here's our fiscal year. It gives you the reporting period for that fiscal year. FY26 is July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Next, you'll see all the adjusted expenses for instruction and tuition, and then the adjusted expenses for transportation. I'll go into more details on what adjusted expenses means when I get further in the training. Then you have a cumulative credit balance. If your district received a collaborative cumulative credit and you didn't apply the entire credit, you would see a balance up here that would have to be either taken care of or explained. Now, next is the claim stage, and I want to point you to this as an important piece of information when you're looking at this. Right now, this claim for Pawnee is in extraordinary relief in progress. What that means is you're entering claims while the claim is in extraordinary relief. If you do not plan on claiming extraordinary relief, that's okay. You can still add your claims here, and we will then, and if you don't submit the claim because you're not going to submit for relief, that's fine. All of your data will be saved, and we will move all claims to year end or final stage in April. And all of the data that you've entered during this time that it said claim stage extraordinary relief will be saved and brought over. So you can start working on your claim as soon as it's open, whether you plan on claiming extraordinary relief or not. Okay. That's the first thing. The second thing, the big difference with it being an extraordinary relief claim and final year end claim cycle is that while claims are in extraordinary relief, you are not able to add transportation claims. The calculation to qualify for extraordinary relief only looks at tuition and education, instructional expenses. It does not look at transportation expenses. So because of that, while in extraordinary relief, and if you plan on submitting for extraordinary relief, you cannot add any transportation expenses. That's really the big difference between extraordinary relief stage and final year-end stage. Next up, above where it says claim stage, you'll see a few different um, options here: edit, printable view, sum all, and then there's a caret next to sum all. Sum all will, any of these that I'm going to click on above claim stage will open up another report into a different window. So I'm going to run through all of those for you. The first one is sum all, and this is a listing of all the students that you've claimed and what their total cost is. I'm just going to open it so you can see. You see we have the claim, it's Pawnee. Here are all the students, their SACIDs. If there's a special indicator, it indicates whether they're above threshold or not, the threshold that was applied to their placement, the status, whether it's out of district or in district, if there was applied cumulative credit, the total for instructional cost, if there were any cost shares related to instructional cost, the adjusted instructional cost, and then the net instructional cost. And then we have the same thing for transportation. When I go to the claim details page, I'll give you the definitions of what all of these mean, and they're also in that page, so I think it might be easier when I hover over them to see. The other piece that's on this that's important is you can download this and export it to Excel. I would recommend that's something you do at the district level once you submit your claim so that you have a record of what was submitted to us. When we review your claim, we could make changes, and once we do, this report will change based on those changes. So if you want to keep a record of what you submitted when you submitted, or maybe you want to keep a record as you go and make changes because you want to document, the changes you made and what you have left, you're able to export this and save this to Excel. So moving on back to the claim. Next to sum all, there's what we are calling a caret, and there's several reports listed here. The first one is my authorizations. This report will show you all of the authorizations that you've had approved from OSD. These include students that are placed at an individual student program, or what we used to call an unapproved program, or students that require an IPA for additional services while placed at an approved program. Right now in Pawnee, we only have approved IPAs, and we know this because in the column is the hourly rate. One-to-one services for IPAs are claimed based on the hourly rate. If there were ISPs in here, we would see we'd see information in the daily rate column listed. One thing to know about the new system, and there's a couple trainings that will go over this, is what is showing here are the my authorizations that have been approved by OSD. If you've applied for approval and you're still waiting to get approval from OSD, they will not be listed here. Only what has been approved is in this my authorization report. And this is another report that's constantly changing. As approvals come in, they get added, and you'll see this report change. Excuse me, the claim system, you're not able to claim any of these services unless OSD has approved them. And then you need to associate the authorization that's listed here to that placement in order to submit the placement for reimbursement. And that's a very quick general explanation of why this is important. But like I said, we have other trainings that will go into so much more detail about how to do that. Moving back to the caret next to sum all, next is our CB7. Our CB7 is a listing of all the approved schools by OSD, the approved residential and daily schools by OSD. And you'll see these are listed here by name, and our program code has changed to the traditional DESI DA code. And then you have your daily rate, the annual rate approved, the start and end date. You'll see on American School for the Deaf, for this DA code 09505504, we see two daily rates here. We see one rate from July 1st to July 31st and another rate from August 1st to June 4th. What we have done is we've collected all of the calendars for each of these programs. So we know the days of operation related to the daily rate for that time period. So if you entered a placement for American School for the Deaf and it was July 10th to August 15th, the system is going to know once you select this program code how many days in July were at $990.21 and how many days in August were at $1,010.01. And it is going to calculate the total cost based on that calendar information and the daily rates during that period. You no longer have to enter two different programs. The system is going to calculate that for you, okay? So that's good news. You can also export this to Excel if you wanted to, but just note this is also a report that will be changing as new programs are added or there's price increases at schools through June. This CB7 will also change. So just be careful with the exporting to know that some of this information will be constantly changing. Going back to the caret next to some all, our next list is the LEA Collaborative. And this lists the program, the DA, the new DA code for all districts or LEAs and collaboratives. So these are the codes that you want to use when you're claiming any of these situations. Just going to close some of these up here because now I have so many open. Like I said, these open different report. So, okay. So now moving on to the next one next to the sum all is the ISP code list. This is a listing of the unapproved program codes that we're aware of. So if you have a student that's at an unapproved program, these are the codes that you'll enter in the claim system. I just want to note that we're still carrying the CB legacy program code because when you do your application, at least today, and it could change after this recording or, soon, but right now, while you're doing your unapproved program application online, they're requesting this code number, the CB legacy program code, this 4-digit number. Once it goes through the approval process and OSD approves the program, it will come back with this new DA code. And that code is the code that will go into the approval in the system, and it's the code that you'll want to make sure you're claiming for that placement. If you have a program that does not have a legacy code, like for example, this Children's Community Program of Connecticut, we would work on getting the new code for you. Well, actually, the department that you file the paperwork for the unapproved program will. And then it will come back with this new DA code, which will be on the OSD authorization. And it will also be what you're claiming in the system. After that, next to the sum all and that caret is the cumulative credit worksheet. You'll be able to, if you're a district and you have collaborative cumulative credit, instead of applying the credit on the claim level, you'll still be able to do that, but you'd also be able to go into this report and apply any credit to any student that's placed at a collaborative or is receiving transportation. And we have a training that goes into more detail about that, but that's basically what this cumulative credit worksheet is. And you'll see there's 3 different worksheets. We've had situations where districts were more than one member at a collaborative and received cumulative credit from 2 collaboratives. So this allows you to track both of those credits separately. Moving down below this top banner is all this all the steps, I guess I'll call it, that are important for claiming. The first one is the instructions, goes through brief instructions of what you need to do once you're in here. Some helpful links, which is a link to our DESI site and a link to our training modules all together. But there are hyperlinks built in the claim system that will bring you to those training modules. So just something to be aware of. The next page is the claim details. Now, this is the roll up of all your claim information at a very, very top level. Okay. I'm going to go through this for you. First, you see the claim name in the district, the stage we're in, which I talked about already, and then deadlines related to each stage. You have the extraordinary relief deadline and then your year-end deadline. This is important. These deadline dates are important because if you do not submit by the date of the deadline, you will not be able to submit at all unless you call us and we change the deadline. There is a stop built in that you can't do it after the deadline. Next, on the district summary is first number is total cost entered. This is all the claims you've entered, regardless of what the situation is, instructional, transportation, cost share, anything. This is all the costs that you've entered in your claim. The next one down is the total instructional cost. So now it's taking those total costs and it's breaking it to what's instructional and tuition and then what's transportation. We're not going to see anything over here in transportation because this is an extraordinary relief stage, so we're not able to add transportation. But if you did, you'd see this total cost entered split between instructional and tuition cost and total transportation cost. Next up, we see instructional and tuition cost shares, and the same for transportation. If you had a cost share entered, it would show you what that total cost share was in this area here for instructional and for transportation. Next, we see adjusted instructional and tuition expenses and adjusted transportation expenses. That's that same number that's up here at the top banner. This is basically the amount of what you paid. It's taking the total and subtracting any cost shares from it on both instructional and transportation. The adjusted cost is what you want to match, at least for tuition and transportation, to what you paid. You won't be able to match in district because that's costed out based on services in the IEP. But for tuitions and transportation, this adjusted cost, this adjusted expenses section should match what you paid. So when we ask you to verify your claim or double check your payments to your claim, then you want to go to this adjusted area for tuition expenses and transportation. The next section is net instructional and tuition and net transportation. This is the amount less threshold for all your placement, for all your students. And this is what your reimbursement is based on. So for instructional, the reimbursement would be based on 75% of the 817,000 that's entered here. And for transportation, that percentage is always determined after we've paid out the 75% for instructional and tuition. But know that whatever's in this net transportation claim amount is what, your reimbursement would be based on for transportation. Scrolling down a little bit to cumulative credit, this is where you would enter if you received a collaborative cumulative credit, and you'd enter the collaborative name, the amount of credit you received, and then you'd see these changing, as you start applying it to claims, you'd see an amount in here. And then if you still had to apply it to claims, this would be red instead of green. And if you no longer can apply it to claims, you'd give us an explanation here. And I would also say give us a call too, so that we're aware to look for that. And like I said, when I was going through the caret next to the sum all, you have the option to enter cumulative credit at 3 different collaboratives, depending on your member status at collaboratives. Next is creating summer programs. This is where you would enter your in-district summer program information if you're claiming in-district students with summer programs at your district. And we have a training that goes into the details of adding these and why, And you'll also see here, here's a link to the training on how to do that. The second part is add students. This is where I like to say the magic starts happening. The next part is number 2, add students. This is where I like to say the magic starts happening. This is where you start adding students to your claim. And with Pawnee, we see there's a little bit more than 10 students claimed here. And I'm just going to open one. So I'm picking the first student. You click on the SACID. It opens up to that student detail page, which, as I showed you on the claim details, that was all the claims lumped together. This is now by the student. So you'll see the same information here, that what's applied for threshold, the total cost for instructional, the cost share for instructional, and the adjusted cost for instructional. This is by student now. And then you have the net. This is less the threshold. And then you see the same thing for transportation. If I wanted to add a placement for the student, I'd click on placements. And this opens up to all the placements that I'm able to enter. And each of these has a training related to them. And if you click on this blue section, you'll open up that training. We have trainings modules that go into how to claim each of these placements. I'm going to go back to the original claim because I'm going to go through all these, and then I'm going to go through all the instructions up here. And then I'm going to do a quick little how to navigate a little easier through the system. Next up, number 3 is validations. So while you're entering your claims, you'll realize that in some areas you're stopped when you're entering, because we have built in some validations up front. One of those could be, just talking off the top of my head, you've claimed 10 hours of individual ABA per day. We would never see that, so we stop you if that's entered. It could be a typo. Maybe it was supposed to be 1.5 and 10 was entered. Who knows? But there's a stop and you can't move on. Then you could have a situation where you're claiming 7 hours of aid a day. That wouldn't stop you, but it would say, you're claiming more than a typical school day. Please explain why. You'd give us a comment. You'd be able to submit the claim. When we review over the summer, we'd look at that comment and we could call and question you about it. Then there are some validations that are built in to check after all the claims information is in for a student. So you could have a situation where you've entered an ISP, but you didn't associate the ISP to the claim. That would show up here in this validation, number 3. And I'm going to do another training module of looking at each of these validations. How do you clear it? What are your options when this happens? But just know, if you had validations in this number 3 section of this top menu, you would not be able to submit your claim. Right now, Pawnee has none, because I didn't want to really show you just a couple when I'm going to have another training module with most of them. But you'd need to clear them. You'd either need to delete the placements or clear them out by giving us explanation. And the information that will be listed in this validations will tell you what you need to do. The next section, right next to validations, is certify and submit. This is where you would submit your claim. So a couple things I want to bring to your attention here. What you'll see first is, we're in relief, so it's saying submit relief. When it's year-end final, it'll say submit year-end final. What you'll see here is all the students on the left side of who's included in your claim. If you had a situation where during relief, and this is really the only example I can think of off the top of my head, during relief, you added a claim, you didn't get the ISP, but you will for year end, you may want to exclude that student from your relief claim, but you don't want to delete them because you want them for the final claim. You would exclude that student and you'd see that student over here. And I'll show you how to do that when I do the validation training. But you want to be careful that you look at who's included and who's excluded. You don't want to have students excluded that should be included in the claim, because when we calculate your reimbursement, Excluded students are not part of that calculation. So you want to be careful before you submit your claim when you look at this. Further down, you're certifying that the claim is accurate, that you are authorized to submit claims on behalf of the school district. Starting this claiming year, all users will be able to submit claims. In the past, we only had one user per district. Going forward, all users in the CB claim, all users that have access to the CB claim will be authorized to submit claims. Once you check this box, you're saying that your boss or your superintendent gave you the privilege to submit the claim. You are now responsible for what has been claimed. You're also certifying that you're maintaining appropriate documentation to support claims so that when we call and ask questions, that information is readily available, and that you're submitting the claim for relief or final, depending on what stage you're in, and you will no longer be able to edit the claim. The claim becomes closed once you submit it, and it's up to us to review it and get back to you with any questions. Once all of that has been resolved, it moves on to the next stage, and reimbursement is then calculated. So now I just quickly want to show you an easier way to kind of move around the claim, if you will, because I know a lot of times districts are, or from what I've heard from district staff, is they're pressing back a lot to try to get around. And I just want to show an example of if you're in a student and you're adding placements. I'm going back to our first kid here, Abraham Toro, and I'm going to go into one of Abraham's placements. Just going to open any one here, this one at Amigo. So we're in a placement for Abraham, and we know this because it has a placement number at the top and it has the student name, okay? And we're in the placement. Now, if I wanted to go back, you could go back if you wanted to go back to the claim and go up here and do circuit breaker claims. That would bring you back to the open claims page, and you'd have to open up the claim and start over. But if you wanted to go back and stay in the claim without going all the way back out, so we're in the placement for Abraham. So we're at kind of the bottom level of claiming. We're entering placements. To move up, we need to go back to the student level. To do that, we would click the SACID, and that brings us back to the student level. And we know we're at the student level because instead of a placement, we see a SACID here at the top banner, and we also see his name. To see all his placements, we would just click placements, and these are all the placements related to that student. And we're not in the placement yet because we know we still see the SACID here and the student claim. So we're still at the student level. We've gone from placement level up to student level. Now, the next level is claim level. To get back to the claim, and I'm just showing you this so you don't have to do back, up here in the browser. To get back to the claim level, we would click the claim name right here where it says CB Pawnee. Now we're back at the main page for the claim. So we've kind of went from placement level to student level up to claim level. So I just want to bring that to your attention. So, you can do back. There's no problem with pressing this back to get around. But if you wanted to just move a little bit easier through the claim system, I just wanted to bring that to your attention because that's how I maneuver around. So if you watch any of my other trainings, you'll see me doing that instead of back. So just a little bit easier, I think. That concludes, one other thing. While I'm on the student level for Abraham, we also have the sum SACID here, which is an old report we had in our old claiming system. This opens up another window. It's a report. So like most other reports, this will change as you're entering claims. But once you're done entering claims, you can also export this to Excel if you wanted to for each of your students. This gives you the student level detail of what placements have been entered for the student. So you'll see Abraham has a approved private program placement and a one-to-one placement. And this is the total that's been entered for Abraham, 141,806. And if we go back to the student claim details page, we see the 141,806 is the adjusted cost. And then the net subtracts the threshold for that student, and that would be what your reimbursement is based on. The sum SACID does not have the net. It only has the adjusted cost of what you entered. Okay, so just something to be aware of if you're exporting that information. That concludes the training for navigating around the claim system. Like I said, placement, entering, and clearing out the validation list and certifying and claiming will be in a different, certifying and submitting your claim will be in a different modules. We'll have several modules available to you. So please take a look at those and reach out to us if you have any questions. Good luck with your claim.